A very good morning. I bid to Doctor and my fellows. I'm Eric Chanyan Lee on behalf of Group 2 and the first person to start our presentation today. So right here, right now, I'd like to bring you the shocking news about the tragic Goiânia radiation incidents that unfolded in the capital of the state of City, Brazil. So it was September 1987 when the city of Goiânia found itself at the center of a devastating event. So in the same year, on 30th September, the life of people in Goiânia took an unforeseen turn. The incident originated in an abandoned radiology clinic, which located just a kilometer away from the city's administrative center. So within the clinic, a forgotten radioactive source awaited its tragic fate. Okay, so surely here, it was one of the most significant radiological accidents in human history. Okay, so the Goiânia tragedy, also known as the South America's nuclear tragedy. As I mentioned before, the affected region is around the capital city, Goiânia. It was a cesium-137-based teletherapy unit left behind after the clinic had moved. So the consequences were far-reaching, as a significant number of people fell victim to this radioactive hazard. So hereby, I deeply regret to inform you that there's a total of 112,000 people monitored for cesium exposure. So among these victims, there's 1,000 people have received the equivalence of an entire year's worth of normal background radiations. So, and 249 people were seriously contaminated, and 20 had acute radiation sickness. Okay, so talking to events timeline, now please allow me to dive into what actually happened and caused this catastrophe. So in 1985, the Goiânia incident occurred when the Instituto Goiano de Radioterapia, also known as IGR, which is a language in Brazil, a radiotherapy institute in Goiânia, left behind a cesium-137, which is a radioactive source, best therapy unit during their relocations in the same year. So the abandoned site became a legal dispute between the IGR, which is the institute, and the Society of Saint Vincent of de Paul, which represented by the court. So the court was informed about the radiations material in September 1986. So the next year, which is 1987 in May, police prevented the removal of the materials, and IGR alerted the National Nuclear Energy Commission, which in short we normally call it CNEN, so about the danger. So however, the court order prevented the owners from taking any actions to remove the leftover machines in the clinics. Okay, so on September 16, there happens the opening of the capsule causing the leakage of the radioactive source. So there's a main character, namely Roberto dos Santos Elvis. So I will call him Elvis in my script, in my presentation later on. So he accidentally punctured the cesium capsule, causing a deep blue light to emit from it. So believing it to be the gunpowder, he attempted to ignite it, but to no avail. The exact cause of the blue light was unknown, but it was speculated to be related to ionized air glow, fluorescence, or also known as the Cherenkov radiations resulting from moisture absorptions in the air. So a similar blue light was observed during a cesium-137 source disencapsulations at the locations known as Oak Ridge National Laboratory in the United States in 19. Okay. So 2 days later, which is on September 18, the source, however, unfortunately was sold and dismantled, which further caused the leakage of the radioactive source, which is the cesium-137. Okay, so the main character, Elvis, sold the punctured cesium capsule to a scrapyard with owner named Diver Elvis Ferreira. So the Ferreira brought the capsule home due to its blue glow and shade the substance with visitor over 3 days. As you can see, he shared this hazardous and radioactive substance for continuously 3 days. Means there's an exposure of radioactive source in these 3 days, and there's a reasons why that's causing the outbreak of the radiation incidents in Brazil. So one of the Ferreira's friends extracted grains from the capsule, which Ferreira distributed. So unfortunately, Ferreira's wife became ill, and eventually Ferreira sold the scrap metal, including the radioactive material, to another scrapyard, which is his rival. Date September 24 was literally the doomsday to Evo and her daughter, as this was the day that doomsday, the radioactive beast approached them. So Evo, the brother of Elvis Ferreira, took more dust from the cesium source and spread it on his house concrete floor. Unfortunately, his daughter, namely Lady, ingested the contaminated dust while unknowingly eating an egg sandwich on the floor. Intrigued by the blue glow, she also applied the powder to her body, and thus tragically, Lady absorbed a fatal dose of radiation. Okay, so 4 days later, Maria Gabriela de Ferrella had been the first to notice that many people around her had become severely ill at the same time. So on September 28, 1987, 15 days after the item was found, she reclaimed the materials from the rival scrapyard and transported them to a hospital. The last event, which is on September 29 in the morning, a visiting medical physicist used a scintillating counter, which is a technique to confirm the presence of radioactivity and persuaded the authorities to take immediate actions. The city, state, and even the national governments were all aware of the incidents of the end of the day.
After the Goiânia incident, there were many consequences left for the country Brazil. First and foremost is the consequences in terms of environment. The main causes of the incident was the abandonment of the highly radioactive cesium-137 source. The source was left behind in an old radiation therapy clinic that was no longer in use. Failure in disposing the radioactive material enables it to be easily accessed by all peoples and hence resulting in the misuse of radioactive substances, which is what happened in this incident. Next, I'm going to talk about the consequences of economic stability after the Goiânia incident. In terms of economy, there are many problems faced, for instance, and also to be borne by the Brazil government. First of all, cost of material associated with the Goiânia incident included victim treatment, site cleanup, and storage transportation of contaminated materials needs to be borne by the Brazil government. As there were resources allocated for housing and compensating workers involved in monitoring and cleanup operations, all of this requires lots of budget. Even worse, there was also a massive collapse of agricultural and textile markets with a 50% drop in agricultural production within 2 weeks. Similarly, price drop happens to goods as well. It is reported that the sale prices of manufactured goods decreased by approximately 40%, and property values, home sales, rental prices, and land prices were affected, especially in proximity to contaminated areas. Also, tourist industry, one of the major economic contributions to the country, was also severely impacted. This could be reflected through the declination of hotel occupancy rate and also the tourist industry in Goiânia and Caldas Novas. Moreover, most of the major conventions in Goiânia were also cancelled due to the stigma associated with affected communities. Overall, substantial economic repercussions encompass direct material costs and indirect socio-economic effects due to perceived risk.
To address concerns, monitoring stations were established by the National Commission for Nuclear Energy to check individuals for contamination. It's crucial to note that this monitoring effort was a response to perceived risk, as state and federal government did not actively encourage people to undergo monitoring. In fact, they worked to calm fears and discourage individuals from seeking monitoring. Nevertheless, approximately 125,000 people, representing 1 in 10 residents of the city, expressed personal fear of potential contamination. They took time off work or used their weekends to travel across town and wait in line for body scans using Jojo counter. For your information, research from International Atomic Energy Agency have found out perceived risks lead to significant behavioral response. With 125,000 individuals seeking monitoring, about 8.3% of the first 60,000 monitored individuals exhibited stress or allergic symptoms, despite not being contaminated. Furthermore, over 8,000 residents sought and obtained official certification to prove that they were not contaminated. These certificates were requested to counteract the stigma associated with the area. Instances of stigma included refusal by hotels, airlines pilots, and bus drivers, as well as incidents of vehicle vandalism and convention cancellation. In this slide, I will present the political and legal consequences of the Goiânia incidents. There's a jurisdictional conflict and administrative responsibilities that disputes over administrative, legal, and financial responsibilities emerge at multiple levels. It also causes conflicts between Goiânia and neighboring communities. The states of Goiás and the federal governments were prevalent. Rival states exploited Goiás' predicament, manipulating products prices and weakening its political and economic position. Next, it also causes impact on nuclear waste disposal and state law. The incident triggered political action by other states to prevent nuclear waste from being buried within their borders. State law in Brazil prohibiting nuclear waste burial was swiftly enacted in response to public concerns and opposition. There are also tribal groups in prospective burial sites protested in the capital, further challenging the government plans. The Goiânia incident not just raised questions about nuclear waste disposal, but also provided a platform for political dissent and alternative investigation. Opener of the official version of events seized the opportunity to challenge the narrative surrounding the accident. There are also cases where a member of the Brazilian Green Party invited a nuclear physicist from the German Green Party to conduct an independent investigation. Moreover, the exaggerated radiation readings from this expert caused substantial damage when reported in the press, leading to confusion and misinformation.